I think for, not just for the Minister of Energy, I think for all the state institutions in Azerbaijan, for the population as a whole, we had, would I call it a plan or dream? I think it starts with dream, right? You dream about that possibility, that day that should come at one point. And you have some preliminary plans as well on what you are going to be doing. But to be honest with you, there's this veil of mysticism also, right? Because what happened in Karabakh, we believed it will happen, but it was beyond our wildest imaginations. I mean, the way it happened, to me, it's not just about liberation of territories. I think it happened with the minimum bloodshed. It happened while paving the way for sustainable peace deal. I think this is the most important aspect of whatever was happening in Karabakh region of Azerbaijan in the last 3 years. And even this kind of fast-forwarding to COP29 debut, right? You never expect that this COP29 voting started with a movement towards a sustainable peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Armenia standing up in front of everybody and saying that they are going to support Azerbaijan and call on anybody else to support Azerbaijan. You know that COP events usually, expectation-wise, people try to manage it very well, right? But to me, this is the first COP that from the very start heralds that there's going to be a success because it's already a success. Its start, I think, is a success. Back to Karabakh. Yes, we had certain plans, but they were preliminary plans. I think they became more and more. And as you understand, the person who studies Azerbaijan very well, right? It's happening in real time in front of our eyes. And about a year ago, we couldn't have imagined that we are going to be here today. Right. 2 years ago, we couldn't have imagined that we are going to be where we were a year ago. So things happened so fast that we tried to adapt our preliminary plans / dreams to real plans. And what the Minister of Energy did, we basically, of course, implement the vision and the orders of the President of Azerbaijan. And his vision was liberated territories, Karabakh and East Zangezur should be turned into green energy zones. And this is the term he coined, right? I think he's the first person ever to coin this term. And we, of course, thought a lot about what exactly this means, tried to operationalize that. To this purpose, we hired a Japanese TEPSCO, quite experienced international consulting company, and together we kind of pondered and thought about what exactly it might entail, and in collaboration with other state institutions, we eventually came up with the concept of green energy zone, and then we turned that concept into action plan. And that action plan, as you know, in Azerbaijan, for the next 10 years, we have these national priorities for socio-economic development. That's the strategy plan for the country for the next 10 years. It's divided into 5-year strategies. The first 5-year strategies is over, and one of the 5 priorities is great return, right? So our action plan for green energy zone became part of the national priority of great return to Karabakh region. So this green energy zone action plan is already part of the great return. And there are many, many aspects of it, but I'll go kind of on a footnote. I want to indicate that we discussed this a lot, and we are told that in the world we have green cities, we have green village concepts, we have green maybe towns, but green zones of this magnitude, right? The liberated territories, they have the size of the Lebanon. Probably it's the first of its kind that we have, where the green energy concept is applied on such a big region. And in fact, again, another footnote, or maybe it should be one of the subtitles of our conversation, we are also thinking about, at this stage, it's ideational stage, we are thinking about globalizing and extrapolating this idea at COP29 platform. We think that there are many places like, basically it's post-conflict reconstruction, right? As you know, the bad thing about Karabakh and East Zengezur is that there is nothing left, right? Everything is leveled to the ground.
Scorched earth.
Yeah, it's scorched. But if there's anything good to be sought, there is the fact that there is nothing left, right? So how do you turn that tragedy into advantage? Because there is nothing left, you can build everything anew. Armenian occupiers, they basically were exploiting the resources of the region in every sense of the world. Wood resources, forestry, they were exploited just the way a colonizer would be exploiting. I think to me it's another indication that some people definitely did not see the region as their own. They really saw it as a place, temporary place to be exploited. And to that, of course, you can add hydropower sources of the region. We found about 44 I don't want to call them hydropower stations. They were basically built not up to the standards. They were basically, you don't see much engineering going on. It was really for temporary exploitation. What we see is that they did not consider any ecological influences, right? It wasn't done with true study of the region. It was basically how we can exploit these resources and make money. Therefore, what we are doing is we are definitely rebuilding the area, and we are not keeping them the way they are because, again, they are not up to the environmental standards, up to the industry standards. We are rebuilding them that way. So far, what happened, we have already 20 small hydropower stations up and running with the total capacity power of about 170 megawatts. And about 12 are in the pipeline, and they are going to be realized this year. So by the end of this year, we will have 32 small hydropower stations with a combined installed capacity of 270 megawatts. What does 270 megawatts mean? So let me give you some understanding of that. So in Karabakh, we have a lot of fresh resources, fresh water, more than in any other part of Azerbaijan. In fact, 25% of our fresh water is formed in Karabakh. And we have other small hydropower stations in other parts of Azerbaijan, but we don't have enough water to run them. Only 10% of the time you can utilize them, but in Karabakh you can utilize them up to 35%, which is a very good standard. So if 270 take about 1/3 of that, so we are talking about 90 megawatt of constantly working hydropower. So this would be enough to power about close to 200,000 households, actually, by Azerbaijani standards. We look at the numbers. During Soviet periods, Karabakh region's consumption was around, it wasn't even 100 megawatts, right? So this is amount that we believe that should be enough, at least very significantly supply them with electricity. But of course, when you add the industry, when you add other agriculture, which we plan to develop in the region quite intensively, of course, we are going to need additional power. Per capita consumption somehow stays the same, because as you say, although life is getting more and more electrified, new devices, new gadgets, but at the same time, efficiency goes up, right? The efficiency of those devices are going up. For instance, the electricity bulb, like light bulb that we were using, I don't know, 20 years ago, right? Today, the average light, it was about 100 watts of power, right, to light up a room like this. Today, we light up a room like this with a light bulb that has the power 20 times less than the initial 20 years ago, right? The bulb that we had 20 years ago. So in that sense, efficiency increases, gadgets increase, but per capita consumption stays almost the same. Yet, I agree totally with you that the industrialization plans that we have for the region will definitely make sure that the consumption will be much more than what we have during Soviet times. But again, part of that we were talking about green energy zone. One of the main pillars of green energy zone concept is that all the electricity consumed in the region, in liberated territories, has to come from renewable sources. So all the electrons consumed in Karabakh, either industry or household, will have to come from renewable sources, because besides this sizable hydro potential, which is around 400 to 500 megawatts, Karabakh also quite rich in terms of solar and wind power, and we are already building with BP. We are planning very soon to start the construction of 230 megawatt solar power plant. It will occupy an area more than 500 hectares, so it will be huge industry scale plant. And what is amazing is that most of the energy produced in Jabrail region, and it will be built by BP, will actually decarbonize BP's oil and gas processing in Absheron Peninsula. So we kind of say that symbolically we are bringing green energy of Karabakh to decarbonize the black oil of Absheron Peninsula, right? So this symbolism there is amazing, and the fact that BP is leading the process, I think it's a signal to everybody of the serious intentions of Azerbaijani people and Azerbaijani government. I mean, sometimes people say, and it amazes me, I mean, they ask, why are you so in love with Karabakh, so obsessed with Karabakh? Is it because it's beautiful? I mean, nature-wise, it's gorgeous, right? In fact, Karabakh, as you know, in Azerbaijani, it means lush forests, right? Thick forest area. It has very fertile soil. It has a lot of fresh water, as you say. It has amazing natural resources, from gold to copper. And add to that these renewable energy sources. But first and foremost, I think Karabakh for Azerbaijanis is just a piece of their history. That's why it's valuable, not because of natural resources. Even if it was a piece of desert without any biomass, any natural resources, I think it would have been still as valuable as it is. But again, we are blessed that it's also gorgeous part of Azerbaijan. We feel that it's basically a bonus in a sense, and we are trying to develop those resources to the benefit of Azerbaijani people, and hopefully again for the also serving the lasting peace. Yes, it's an amazing combination of different resources. As you know, in Kelbecer region, we have those geothermal resources. We studied them. So to produce electricity out of those geothermals, you need to go down for a couple of kilometers, right? So because you need to reach a certain temperatures, because at the surface level, it's around 50 or so degrees Celsius, which is great for recreational purposes. But we are still thinking and studying the possibility of building geothermal power station, because geothermal power station there would produce electricity at a little bit higher cost than what we are producing elsewhere in Azerbaijan. But again, combined with different usages of the same basically warm water, you can bring in some cases where the economic return could be quite acceptable. But that's something we are thinking about also. I think it's adding a lot to our green agenda. Because again, it brings a lot of renewable energy sources. It started with hydro, continues with solar. Probably the third one will be wind. We are currently studying. We have very good wind resources in Kelbecer region also, Laçın and Kelbecer regions. And we are currently studying and measuring the wind power there to understand how much we can wind power stations could be built in the region. Yes, and I think in the last commitments, national determined contributions, Karabakh region of Azerbaijan, or Karabakh and East Agenzo region of Azerbaijan, was declared net zero by 2050. So this is the first region of Azerbaijan that has been declared net zero, and I think it will be trailblazer for other regions of Azerbaijan. So as we are getting ready for hosting COP29, I won't be surprised, so I'm not authorized to talk about that, but probably we are also thinking about whether we can look forward and think about getting on new commitments. And I think Karabakh and what we are doing in those regions is shedding light already, helping us to understand and calculate, and in terms of coming up with perhaps new goals. Even if you did not have any special programs for them, right? Since they are in the region, since they have already housing there, right? Even when people apply for a job in the region, of course, those who are coming from the region will be applying much more frequently, and the chances of their getting hired is much higher than people from other parts. So it's about locals, right? But also the government really pays a specific attention to make sure that the employment is the case and high-paying jobs, right, are the case so that they can sustain a decent life for themselves. And yes, definitely. I think the small, I mean, again, we are talking about 32 already hydropower stations. We are talking about when BP's projects are realized, you are going to need tens of hands, if not more, to maintain that huge area of 230. I mean, 230 is really big plant. I mean, you can see it very clearly when you fly over. So any flight to Fizuli region, Fizuli airport or Zengilan airport, people are going to see that huge plant. So that means that already, I think energy sector, especially renewable energy sector, is one of the biggest employers in the region. And as you know, as part of the green energy zone, we decided not to build any fossil fuel fired power plant. So we won't have anything that will be working on producing electricity and burning fossil fuels. I think we are in constant collaboration with the Ministry of Education because annually they are asking us which areas we see perspectives and which specialists they should be preparing at the university level, and that's what we are feeding them with, right? Because depending on our plans and how they are unfolding, especially in Karabakh, because Karabakh is really becoming, in terms of hydropower, it's the lead region of Azerbaijan. In terms of solar power, it's going to be also one of the lead regions of Azerbaijan. So in that sense, yes, we are in constant collaboration. We are also working directly with certain universities, right? So we have, thank God, we have state programs that finance studies abroad. And we have these dual programs at different universities where students spend a year in Azerbaijan and a year in the United Kingdom, in the United States. And we push them towards renewable energy, electrification, power sector, which will be very crucial. So yes, definitely, there's a collaboration and things are moving forward there as well. I think one big hurdle about that could be maybe found between the producers of fossil fuels and move towards renewable energy is the social contract in these kinds of countries, because the expectation of the population is, and this is also to an extent the influence of the Soviet years, that if you are an oil and gas producing country, the price of oil and gas, domestically speaking, should be very low. This is the overall take of the society, and we have to respect that, right? Unless you are explaining and achieving consensus, we are respecting that, and this is the case. But when you keep those prices low, that means that, as you know, green technology is only barely able to compete with fossil fuel sector in terms of the power generation, electricity generation. But when the prices are a little lower, then you are creating problems for green energy to take hold, right? Because they are not now able to compete at the market level. But it doesn't mean that you cannot come up with creative solutions, right? Again, to somehow finance this extra cost that could be coming with green energy, also relying on your revenues from oil and gas exports. So this is what we are doing, and so far so good. And again, just like in Karabakh, we are trying to turn certain maybe risks into opportunities. And I think we also succeeded in this case. When Masdar came, we were able to get very, very good price from them. And to me, it was more than business. And that's what I think when you talk about the relationship, and before this conversation, the official part of it, we were chatting with you about the relationship between Azerbaijan and United Arab Emirates. I think what's amazing about this relationship is it's not pure business. It's also about trust. It's about friendship also, right? So to me, in fact, that is helping the business a lot, because we can communicate well. We are playing our cards in an open manner. It's not even play anymore. And that way, we are really laying the foundations of long-lasting and sustainable relationship. But all in all, to me, yes, as long as you approach these issues creatively, you can keep respecting your population, the overall understanding they have, but utilize creative means to make sure that these policies inequalities in the fossil fuel sector does not hinder the coming of the renewable energy or green energy revolution, because we cannot afford to stop that process. It is amazing. It is revolutionary. The basis for that agreement is actually 2022 July Memorandum of Understanding between the President of Azerbaijan and the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. That memorandum envisages two directions in terms of the energy relationship between Azerbaijan and the European Union. One is about doubling the amount of natural gas we are exporting to Europe. The other is how we can collaborate in the realm of green energy, and how we can export electrons, green electrons, from Azerbaijan all the way to Europe. For its time, even today, I think it's perceived as a revolutionary idea. And we were meeting this person from European Union. He's head of one of the very powerful energy associations, green energy associations. And when I discussed this issue with him, he said that I have never seen European politicians, energy people, get excited so much about such a green energy initiative. They are excited. It was new to them also. We already hired Italian chassis. We actually established a tender commission led by Azerbaijan, where the Hungarians, Georgians, and our Romanian friends all sent their delegates. So this tendering commission held a tendering process and hired a consultant, chassis. Italian chassis became the winner, and they already started the feasibility study of that project. And we are also very happy to see that our brothers from Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan also very willing to become part of the project. So we are going to probably start a separate project with them, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan getting connected through Trans-Caspian cable line, green cable line this time. And as you know, we are calling this quadrilateral project as Caspian EU Green Energy Corridor. And we believe that the backbone of that corridor will be this immense offshore wind resources of the Caspian Sea. And this Caspian Sea, I think I'm amazed given the importance of the Caspian for Azerbaijani people. It's not just a source of beauty for Azerbaijan, source of fisheries, source of navigation, but also our biggest oil field is in the Caspian Sea. Our biggest gas field is in the Caspian Sea. And now it becomes clear that our biggest renewable energy resource is also Caspian Sea, right? 157 gigawatts is 20 times more than we can ever consume, right? So this means that there's an opportunity for export. And as always, as with oil a century ago, natural gas, in 2000s, Azerbaijan with green energy area starting its third revolution. And while doing this, it's not just benefiting itself, it's benefiting the entire region, and it's using this opportunity to tie up the entire region to European continent. So to me, that's the most important part of this endeavor. I don't think we have anything to hide. I don't think we have anything to be cautious about. I think what I like about, as a citizen of Azerbaijan, we don't have any hidden agenda. We don't have any public face and then private space, right? We know what reality is, we understand what the reality is, and we focus on positives. We focus on what we have done so far. And regarding COP29 also, we are really there to deliver on the global promises, on the promise, on the demand of the global community. That is what matters, right? That is, we are trying to mobilize all the resources we have in the best traditions of Azerbaijani hospitality. When somebody entrusts you with something, to us, that is the ultimate responsibility, right? And then you forget about yourself and you are trying to make sure that the entire community, those who entrusted you with this mission, they are vindicated in a sense. So this is what we are focused at. On all other issues, and again, symbolically, the fact that the start of COP29 was also a move towards a sustainable peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia, to me, as a citizen, without any, say, this political spinning, right? I was so happy, because with Armenians, Azerbaijan's lived for hundreds of years in peace, hundreds of years. And to all naysayers, I'm so sure that after several years, we'll look back and people even will forget about all this war, and people will say that, no, that was this minor footnote in the long history of our relationship, and people won't even remember what exactly happened. Because to me, that's a deviation from normal. So we'll get back to normal, and our strive, again, to me, modern Azerbaijani state is about turning problems into opportunities. It's about making sure that the resources it has is shared in the larger neighborhood, and how this larger neighborhood also gets connected to the most developed, most progressive parts of the world. And I see our relationship also with Armenia. It has to go in this direction. We'll make sure that we are back to our traditional great relationship, and we see this as an opportunity. So I'm not really concerned. There will be questions. When you think about how to criticize somebody, you'll definitely find something to criticize. That's also fine. It's part of life. I think criticism also should be approached in a creative manner. You learn from them from time to time. But again, thank God that we don't have anything to hide. Everything is in plain sight, and we are always ready to discuss. But let us focus on delivering this great responsibility that is put on our shoulders by international community first.